When British troops entered Bergen-Belsen on April 15, 1945, they encountered a devastation of human misery for which they were utterly unprepared. More than 10,000 bodies lay scattered about the camp, and the 58,000 surviving inmates, the overwhelming majority of them Jews, were suffering from a typhus epidemic, as well as a combination of tuberculosis, dysentery, extreme malnutrition, and countless other virulent diseases.
We stand here on one of the largest Jewish cemeteries in the world. There are no gravestones here. There are no markers. The victims buried here lost not just their lives. The Nazis took their identity away as well. When British troops entered the gates here at Bergen-Belsen, they took pictures, and for the first time, the world finally understood the extent of the Nazi horror. We saw the bulldozers pushing naked bodies into open pits, the walking skeletons, the unbelievable sadness and loss. But there is another story that is not told. I believe it is one of the most important lessons of the Holocaust.
Left to their own devices, the Jewish DPs tried to replicate the life they had known before the Holocaust. My father used to describe Belsen as the last shtetl in Europe, whose inhabitants, teeter-tottering between despair and exhilaration, were suspended between past and future.
Thousands of marriages and new families emerge from these ashes. Can you imagine the courage it took that a young father who lost his wife and small children choosing to move on, or the young woman who saw her husband and children murdered in front of her, choosing to continue? After everything that happened to them, these people had the courage and the will to start new families between 1945 and 1950, when DP camp was closed. 2,000 children were born here. Those children became doctors, lawyers, professors, business leaders. Much of what's happened here was due to the tireless efforts of the Jewish leader of the DP camp, Joseph Rosensaft, who insisted on the outset that the survivors be treated with the utmost respect by their liberators. In 1946, Joseph and Dr. Hadassah Rosensaft a young dentist who helped save 149 children on the terrible winter of 1944 to 45, were married here. Their son, Menachem Rosenseft, lawyer, scholar, and my friend, who was born right here in 1948.
My father was a force of nature. Fearless, indomitable, endowed with a keen intelligence and a tremendous sense of humor. He was totally devoted to the Jewish DPs of Belsen, and they to him. Most importantly, perhaps, he nurtured within them a sense of pride, of self-worth. He was by nature a populist who taught me to respect the dignity of all who are persecuted, oppressed, or in need.
Only as an adult did I realize what heroes my parents actually were. Yet they were able to retain their beliefs in humanity, their love, their kindness, and the will to live and love again.
From a very young age, I sensed my parents' trauma. But they were silent in their attempts to protect me. But this could not be prevented. The Holocaust lived in our house. Once they were gone and I became a grandmother, I realized that I did not know my history. This parachuted me into a 10-year-long obsession to uncover my parents' hidden past. As our survivors lessen in numbers, we are the carriers of their testimonies.
My dad, I think, was very smart because he never ever took the view that he was a victim. He demonstrated to me the amazing resiliency of the Jewish people. For years, I've been involved in trying to educate people about the Holocaust and conveying a message to people who are not Jewish, mostly, that about tolerance and resiliency and the fact that as human beings we are pretty much capable of doing almost anything.
We, a second, third, and fourth generation, they ask us to tell our story, to talk face to face. There is a lot to do, and many, many more people to reach.
There is an instinctive bond between those of us who were born in Belsen, sometimes referred to as the Belsen Babies. It's a bond because we share a birthplace that is unique in history. No one else had that birthplace before. No one else will have it in the future. We are bound in history by having been part of the rebirth, not just of our families, but the rebirth of the Jewish people. And by our birth, by our coming into this world, against the backdrop of an attempt to destroy the Jewish people, to destroy our families, to destroy our parents, which, by the way, had largely succeeded, our presence on Earth was the ultimate act of defiance and, in a small measure, a victory over those who had sought to destroy the Jewish people generally and our families in particular.